good evening, everyone, and welcome to our lesson. So, our topic for this evening is the continuation of our discussion for our first topic, which is the strategic management model. So, we will continue our discussion on the distinction and similarities of strategic management and strategic planning. And we will also discuss our second topic, which is the challenges in the external environment. So, let us begin by discussing strategic planning and strategic management. So, these two terms that are often confused or used interchangeably. So, oftentimes, the term strategic planning is more popular than strategic management. So essentially, these two concepts are closely related. In terms of purpose, both strategic management and strategic planning have the same uh, goals and objectives. So, which is to devise a strategic way of preparing organizations for where they want to go. So, both of strategic management and strategic planning aim to provide direction to the organization and also help achieve long-term goals and guide decision making in a complex environment. However, despite of the similarities, so there is an important distinction. So what uh, what differs, no, uh, for the two terms? So strategic management is commonly discussed in an academic or theoretical context because it provides the concepts, frameworks, and models that explains how the organization analyze their environment, and also it uh, formulating strategies and implementations of plans, and also evaluation of performances. In other words, strategic management explains how strategies works. On the other hand, naman, strategic planning is more commonly used in the actual business and organizational setting. So, it refers to the practical application of strategic management concept that we learn in the school. So, uh, this is where organization prepare concrete plans, programs, and actions to achieve their goals. So, in this sense, we can say that strategic management serves as a springboard or stepping stone to strategic planning. So, strategic management provides the theoretical foundation, while the strategic planning brings strategy into real world practice. So that is the distinction between strategic management and strategic planning, and also their similarities. Now, why there is a need for strategic planning? So there is a strong need for strategic planning because of the today's or in today's environment that is characterized by dynamism, complexity, and hyper competition. So the reality of constant change, intense competition, and uncertainty means that the organization must plan their strategies carefully to survive in the business environment. So, strategic plans must therefore be purposely prepared, ensuring effective and efficient implementation, which eventually leads to attainment of organizational objectives. Okay, so let us continue our discussion on the challenges in the external environment. So, our learning objectives for this topic is for you to be able to define what is environmental scanning, the to analyze and evaluate the social, political, economic, technological, and environmental forces affecting the country and identify external forces that may prove beneficial or detrimental to an organization. So, first is scanning the environment. So, organization exists to survive given their vision and mission statements and set goals and objectives. So it is for the organization to conduct themselves clearly, deliberately, and strategically. So before organizations can plan strategically, they must possess what we call organizational intelligence. When we say organizational intelligence, it refers to the expertise, insight, and wisdom possessed by an organization. So it allows the organization to understand their strength and weaknesses, interpret environmental signals, and make informed decisions. So organizations with high organizational intelligence are better equipped to anticipate changes and respond strategically. And then environmental scanning. So when we say environmental scanning, it is what the organization do, no, to study and interpret the forces that comes from the external and internal environment. So one of the key activities in the strategic management, no, and planning is the environmental scanning. So through environmental scanning, organizations can identify the opportunities that comes from the outside environment of the business. The organizations also can detect threats early and support strategic decision making. So without environmental scanning, organization risk in making decisions based on incomplete or outdated information. So that is how in environmental scanning important in an organization. And then environmental scanning can be demanding and most dependent on the following. So first is the speed of the organization to conduct scanning. So organizations must be able to gather and analyze information quickly because slow responses can result in missed opportunities or increased risks. And then second is the presence and availability of complete information. So accurate and reliable and complete information is necessary for effective analysis and decision making. And then third is the physical and financial capability to do so. So environmental scanning requires resources, no, such as your hiring uh, trained personnel, technology like database tools or research tools, and other financial resources. So, organization with greater resources can conduct more uh, thorough scanning or wider scanning. And then sources of strategic information. So, strategic information consists of facts and data used by organization to achieve their goals, mission, and vision. So there are two major sources of strategic information. So first is primary information. So when we say primary information, these are data that are gathered through personal experience, observation, interviews, and experimentation. While when we say secondary information, so this data comes from reports, collected reports, internet sources, books, journal, and other published materials. So both sources are important and complement each other in strategic analysis. We just have to make sure that those information that we gather is reliable and complete. Yeah. So next is the modes of environmental scanning. So environmental scanning is how organizations notice, gather, and understand information from their environment. So they understand from their customers, competitors, economy, technology, government, society, and etc. Uh, just to make better decision making for the organization. So there are four modes that differs in purpose, effort, and level of structure. So from very passive or non-active to very systematic uh, form of scanning or searching. First is the undirected viewing. So see, undirected viewing is the most basic and passive form of environmental scanning. So the organization does not have a specific issue or problem in mind. Instead, it simply tries to stay aware of the general informations or general trends and changes that happen in the environment. So, this stage, there is no clear objective, no data collection plan, no deep analysis, and information is gathered incidentally. So the goal is early awareness and not decision making. So why organizations use it? It's because to avoid being surprised by the sudden changes and also to develop a general sense of what is happening in the environment. So, for example, a hotel manager watches every evening sa news, no, and hears that there is a rising prices of fuel or possible coming typhoons or changes in the tourism policies. So there, uh, just uh, just to know the general uh, idea, but no uh, no plan of deep monitoring or deep scanning of the environment of the information that is gathered through the news. And then second is condition viewing. So condition viewing is still a passive form of searching, but now the organization already know which areas are important to watch. So here the organization has identified key topics, no? For example, topics regarding their competitors, government regulations, customer preferences, and other issues. So from these informations, they regularly monitors these areas and does not yet conduct deep research. No, so it is called conditioned because attention is conditioned or limited to selected issues. So the organization does it or use this type of uh, scanning just to focus their attention on the relevant environmental factors that could possibly affect their operations or the entire organizations, and also to reduce information overload. So for example, if the business is travel agency, so the manager regularly check airline fares, visa policies, and travel advisory. So from there, there is an there is a topic, so they monitor it regularly. No? And then third is informal search. So informal search is an active form of scanning and usually triggered by a problem, no? For example, declining sales or triggered by complaints of the guests. And it is also triggered by an opportunity, no, na makita nimo sa external environment. No? For example, there is a new market or new trend in the market. So here, there is an intentional effort to gather information, but the process is unstructured, so based on personal networks and also not officially documented. So why organizations still use it even if it is unstructured uh, form of environmental uh, scanning. So because it is faster and cheaper than formal research, and it is also useful for short-term decisions. No? For example, a manager talks to guests or staff to understand why bookings are decreasing. And another example, for example, entrepreneur. So they ask their colleagues, no, and friends about new destinations that are becoming popular nowadays. So informations comes from experience, no, conversations and online searches. While when we say formal search, so it is the most systematic form, organized and expensive mode of environmental scanning. It's because here the organizations has a clear objective. Uh, they uses formal methods such as surveys, studies, and reports. They collect also large amount of data and conduct careful analysis. So this modes often involves research terms for uh, consultants, statistical tools that will be used, and long-term planning. So why organizations use this form of scanning? It's because to support major strategic decision, mga dagko nga decision making sa organization or sa business, and also to reduce the risk, no, and plan for long term. Okay, next is the external environment. So the external environment presents different forces. So it influences the organizational direction and strategic decision making. So these forces can present themselves as a threat and both threat and challenges to organization. And on the other hand, they could also provide opportunities for the business. So these are the forces that comes from external environment under key issues. So first is the political forces. So the key issues for political forces are political independence or changing government, terrorism or suicide bombings, and chemical and nuclear threats. So uh, ang political independence or changing of government, so it is when a country experience change in leadership or gains political independence. So new leaders often introduce new laws, policies, and other priorities. So these changes can affect, the they could increase the tax or the trade policies, labor laws, and business regulations rather. So terrorism pod and suicide bombings. So terrorists create uh, threats, no, and fear and insecurity. So uh, it discourage tourists, investors, and business from operating in the affected areas, no, and security costs also increase. So, for example, uh, tourist arrivals will decline in the countries nga experiencing frequent attacks of terrorists. So usually ang mga affected ani are uh, business like hotels, airlines, and travel agencies, since naa diha no ang demand sa tourists that comes from the outside country. And then next is the chemical and nuclear threats. So the risk of chemical or nuclear disasters pushes government to enforce strict safety regulations. So the business must invest more in compliance, safety systems, and emergency preparedness. So, for example, if a nuclear power plant and chemical factories, they must follow strict international safety standards. Okay? And then next is economic forces. So, economic forces relate to money, no, trade, production, and overall economic conditions that affect purchasing power and business growth. So, the first issue is economic trade agreements. So, ang economic uh, trade agreements between countries could reduce tariffs or taxes and barriers. So, making it easier for a country to exchange their goods and services and labor. So, this increases competition and market access, since ang imong competitors ana nga country is not only the local but also global competitors. So for example, ASEAN, uh, they trade agreements allow business to sell products more easily across Southeast Asia. And then next issue is the rise of China. So we know that China's rapid economic growth has made it a major global supplier and consumer. So it influence ang iyang influensya, no, affects the global prices, competition, and supply chain, because many countries depend on Chinese manufacturing for their affordable products. And then increasing oil prices. So higher oil prices increases transportation, electricity, and production costs. So businesses may rise or raise their prices, affecting consumer spending. So, for example, uh, airline airlines could increase their tickets prices since fuel costs increase or rise. And then we have social forces. So it involves people's lifestyles, values, demographics, and cultural patterns. So first is the changing social structure. So changes in the family size, no, work-life balance, and lifestyles affect consumers' needs and employee expectations. For example, more dual-income families increase demands for food uh, and online shopping. So, and then aging population and demand for health service. So, as the population ages, or as the population age, there is a higher demand for healthcare, retirement services, and wellness products. So for example, growth in nursing homes, medical tourism, and pharmaceutical industries, and then cross cultural diversity. So we know that globalization has created diverse societies and workforces. So businesses must understand different cultures to succeed. So for example, hotel must train their staff, no, on serving guests that have different cultural backgrounds. And then the next issue is technological forces. Uh, First is communication technology. So then the internet, social media, and mobile apps allows instant communication and global reach. So example, most of the businesses uses social media to promote products and interact with customers. And then second is e-banking. So in e-banking, digital banking enables fast, cashless, and convenient financial transactions. So for example, customers pay their bills and transfer money through mobile banking applications. And then e-learning. So uh, online education platforms allow flexible learning beyond the traditional classrooms. So for example, many universities here offer online degree programs and training courses. So therefore, we see or we look that technological forces drives innovation and efficiency, pushing organizations to continuously update their systems and remain competitive. Okay, so the next external force is the environmental forces. And these are the issues. We have climate change, environmental waste management, and preservation of rainforests and marine life. So first is the climate change. So climate change causes extreme weather. So it affects production, it affects the tourism and infrastructure. No? So for example, beach resort can lose tourists, no, due to strong typhoons and rising sea levels. No? Second is environmental waste management. So uh, businesses are required to reduce pollution and manage waste responsibly. So for example, uh, business like hotel must implement recycling programs and reduce plastic use. And then preservation of rainforests and marine life. So conservation efforts limit harmful business activities to protect our ecosystem. So for example, uh, fishing industries face restriction to protect marine species. So there are areas that they are not allowed to go fishing because it is restricted by our authority, no? So that to protect our marine life. So environmental forces remind organizations to do to do the responsibility to operate sustainably and balance profitability and environmental protection. Okay, so the next external force is the environmental forces. And these are the issues. We have climate change, environmental waste management, and preservation of rainforests and marine life. So first is the climate change. So climate change causes extreme weather. So it affects production, it affects the tourism and infrastructure. No? So for example, beach resort can lose tourists, no, due to strong typhoons and rising sea levels. No? Second is environmental waste management. So uh, businesses are required to reduce pollution and manage waste responsibly. So, for example, uh, business like hotel must implement recycling programs and reduce plastic use. And then preservation of rainforests and marine life. So, conservation efforts limit harmful business activities to protect our ecosystem. So, for example, uh, fishing industries face restriction to protect marine species. So, there are areas that they are not allowed to go fishing because it is restricted by our authority, no? So that to protect our marine life. So, environmental forces remind organizations to do, to do the responsibility to operate sustainably and balance profitability and environmental protection. All right. So to conclude, organizations must operate strategically to survive in an environment characterized by change, competition, and uncertainty. So, through organizational intelligence and environmental scanning, organizations can better understand their environment. They can anticipate challenges, identify opportunities, and make informed strategic decisions. So, strategic management also provides the theoretical foundation, while uh, strategic planning translates strategy into action. So, together, they guide organizations toward achieving their vision, mission, and long term goals. So, thank you, and that conclude our lesson for this evening.